So hello students. So this is the second lecture in this playlist. So in today's lecture we are going to deal with the basics of Python, and we are going to deal with the history of Python, from where the Python is originated, what Python is, and the and the fundamental concept that you must have to know before starting to learn Python. So in this lecture, what I'm going to do is, so I'm going to teach you what Python is and all the key features related to it. What is the syntax in Python? What is the indentation in Python? What are the data types in Python? What are the variables in Python? How can you do the type casting and all the related stuffs in this video. So let's just start. In the previous video, I've already teach you how can you make a virtual environment. So when we are doing the basics in the Python, we doesn't much need a virtual environment on our machine. It's very important when we are doing the when we will do the projects in the future. But from perspective of this particular video, or in the series of some upcoming videos where we are discussing some basics of Python, we are not need much of the virtual environment. We are not going to create the virtual environment. So that is only a part which you are going to use in the future when you are making the projects and all. So let's start today's video. So first of all, we are going to deal, or we are going to know what Python is. So we in here I am just wrote it, and you can uh, read from this particular paragraph that Python is a high level Python is a high level interpreted object oriented programming language. So there are three terms that comes in this particular sentence or a definition. That is, a Python is a high level. So basically there are two types of programming language. One is the high level programming language, and second is the low level programming language. So high level programming languages are those in which you are directly write the code, or in the form of simple your English alphabets like print, hello, like that. Second is the low level programming language, which are basically deal with the with your CPU, like the assembly language. Assembly language is basically wrote in the binary code, or you can write it in the form of hexadecimal code. Okay, so that is what the low level programming language is. So Python is a high level programming language. In this you are write the code basically in the form of the your words or sentences, or like English words. Okay, that's what the high level language. First of all, you wrote the high level language, then it is converted into a low level language by your interpreter and or assembler, interpreter, into the machine level code. That is a low level language, and then it is understood by your CPU, and then again it converts the response in the high level language. So basically this is what going inside your machine, but you are not have to know about that, because that is not so important. So that's why the Python is a high level language. Okay, so there are two type of language, that is a high level language and low level language. Python is a high level language. Second is the interpreted language. Interpreted language means it have an interpreter. Okay, when you write the lines of code, the interpreter converts that lines of code into a machine language, and then that is interpreted by your computer or the CPU. That is why it is an interpreted language. And third is the object oriented programming. Object oriented programming means in this type of programming language, it is basically, there are two types of programming language. First is the functional programming language, and second is the object oriented programming language. Functional programming language are those programming language in which you are basically make the functions to write your code. That's not means that Python doesn't have a function to write the code. What is the function? We will learn in the future. But Python also have a functions, but the basically all the Python code, all the high level Python code are written object oriented programming code, that makes your code clean, and it looks like very structured in a structured manner. That's why it is the object oriented programming language. Okay, developed by God. What is the object? Oops, this is a separate topic that we will learn inside the Python. That is object oriented programming in Python. So it is an object oriented programming language. Okay, like Python is an object oriented programming language. Java is an object oriented programming language, but C is not an object oriented programming language. Okay, C#, C++, these all are the object oriented programming languages. Okay, I think it's very clear to all of you. Next is, this is developed by Guido one Rossum, and first released in 1991. So why it is a very popular programming language? It is a popular for its simple syntax, its readability, and its versatility. Okay, so simple syntax means it's a very simple syntax. If you want to print anything in the console, you just have to write the print on the code. Readability, it is a very high readability, means anyone like a kid can read the code of a Python, and he can easily understand, or she can easily understand what it going to do. Okay, versatility means versatile. It is a very versatile language. Versatile means it can be used in a number of fields, like in the data science. If you want to develop any project related to data science, you can use Python libraries. If you are using web development, you can use the Django and Flask like libraries. You are doing a machine learning, you can use scikit-learn like libraries. If you are doing the deep learning, you can use TensorFlow. These all are the libraries which give the support to I think all of the areas you want to study or you want to develop any project. That's why it is a versatile language, which makes it ideal for beginners and as well as professionals. So if you're a beginner, you can also learn the Python, how to code the Python. And if you're a professional and if you are going want to uh, develop any bigger project in your profession, then you can also learn the Python. Okay, what are the key features in Python? So easy to learn as and read. Okay, okay, it's a very easy to learn. Okay, and read, uses simple English like syntax. Okay, it's an interpreted language. What the interpreted language means? Executes code line by line. So there are two things. First is the interpreter, second is the compiler. Interpreter basically reads your code. Let's suppose you are writing a code, 5 lines of code. Then what the interpreter do? Interpreter basically read line by line code of your entire code base. Okay, and second is the compiler basically read whole lines of code once, and then it converts into the machine language. But interpreter reads each line of the code once by one, and then converts it into machine language. Okay, so there is a no need for the compilation. So Python is an interpreted language. It needs an interpreter. It have an interpreter which converts or executes code by line, not a compiler which executes the code once. That's why if you have a error in any one of the line, Python tells you that here you have an error and you have to correct it. For executing the line of code or other line of code, it doesn't have a compiler, means it doesn't have give you that scenario in which you compile the whole of the code and then there is an error that that you have to correct the line of code. Basically, it have an interpreter that guide you line by line where you done a mistake, and until you doesn't correct that mistake, Python doesn't allow you to run your code. Next is the dynamically typed language. Okay, dynamically typed language means you don't have to declare variables type. In other programming language like C or C#, or C++, you have to declare the data type like int, float. You have to specify your programming language which data type you are going to make the variable. Like if you make a variable, okay, so in the data type like integer, so you have to specify int a equals to 5. So you have to tell your programming language or your machine or your IDE, okay, that you are going to make the variable of integer data type. But in Python, you doesn't have to tell the Python that you have to make the variable of a specific data type. Python automatically recognize which type of variable you are assigning to a which type of variable you are making you are going to make, because it when you see a variable in a Python, that is not just a variable in Python. Okay, that is a and that has have a very much hidden code inside it. Okay, which tells or which recognizes, means there's an algorithm written inside a variable. Okay, there's a class, you can say there's a class. I tell you now that it is an object oriented programming language. So in behind everything there is a class written. Okay, so behind every variable, when you make a variable, you are basically creating a class in Python or a function in Python, okay, which tells that uh, variable that which of the type he or it have to assign to that variable. Okay, that is what it is, dynamic type. You are not specifically assign the variable type to a variable. It basically automatically recognize which type of variable you are declaring. Okay, so that is the beauty of a Python. That is a dynamically type means you don't have to declare variable types. Next is object oriented. Everything in Python is an object. Okay, everything you're writing in a Python is an object. What is an object? We will deal we will deal it with in object oriented programming language, but you have to remember it that everything you are creating in a Python is an object. Okay, what is an object? What is an object? Basically object is an entity which you will use to insert anything to it, or you can retrieve anything from that by using some simple methods. Okay, next is extensive libraries. These are all the advantages of Python. Extensive libraries. So Python has a very huge library set. Okay, if you have any specific use cases, you can use that particular library of a Python. Like this comes with a large standard and third-party modules. Okay, what is the third-party modules and what is embedded modules? So basically, Python is a two types of modules. First is the third-party modules and one is the embedded modules. So embedded modules are basically, if you install the Python, there are some modules or there are some packages which are pre-installed in the Python, which comes with pre-installed with the Python. Okay, like math library in which you are using square root or LCM, like that. That is embedded in the Python. When you install Python on your on your machine, it basically built in Python. So that is known as the built-in modules. And next is the third-party modules. Third-party modules means if any someone developed any package and he wants that the person or a person can use this package in Python. So basically it develops that packages, okay, like NumPy, Pandas, TensorFlow. So I show you that, like there is something called, if you search uh, like TensorFlow. Okay, so spelling mistake, so TensorFlow. So there's an official website of TensorFlow. So if you click it down, it basically opens the website of TensorFlow. So this is a library used for the deep learning projects, deep learning applications. Okay, machine learning like. Okay, so this is an end-to-end platform for machine learning. So if you install the TensorFlow, so TensorFlow is basically a Python library. So like this import, we will see how to do this when we are working with it. So if you click on install TensorFlow, so basically there is a command to install it. The command is pip install TensorFlow. So what's a pip? Pip is a package installed. Okay, okay, it is a Python package installer or package installer for Python. So what it does basically, pip, so pip used to install any third party package, okay, that is not available as a built-in package in Python. If you want to install that, you can use this pip module. Okay, this pip module you can use to install the TensorFlow, okay, or any other package that is not built in Python. Okay, like I show you, like there is something called Pandas that is used for data science. Okay, so if you want to install it, like install Pandas now, so you can use this, and there is a command known as pip install pandas. Okay, there's something called pip install pandas, so you can use it. Okay, that's why it has an extensive library support. There are some libraries which are built in inside it, but there are some libraries which you can install using the pip package. Okay, so I can show you some of the packages like NumPy, Pandas, TensorFlow. There are many much libraries. There's a much libraries available in Python which can you use for a wide variety of applications. These are portable. There is a work across platform like Windows, Mac OS, Linux. It is used. It's compatible with Windows, Mac OS, Linux. So it is open source language. Okay, this is very important. This is open source. There is no any doesn't have to pay anything for using the Python. Okay, so it is basically a open source language. Okay, So this is what about the introduction about the Python and why the Python is a very important language that you have to read or learn in today's world. Now, let's move to our important things like syntax. So this is very important for any programming language. You must have an idea of what syntax is. Okay. So what syntax is? So syntax in Python refers to the set of rules that defines how Python programs should be written and interpreted. So there are some certain like if you want to read or if you want to learn about the English language, okay, there is a certain rules. There are certain rules. There are grammar of English language or Hindi language or any other language. If you want to learn about that language, there are specific keyword. There is a specific rules about that language. So similarly, if you want to learn any programming language is a language, is a type of a language. So if you want to learn any programming language, there are also a specific or set of rules that you have to learn before writing anything in that language. Like if you want to learn about English language, you must have an idea A to Z. You just have to learn about A to Z, its keyword you have to learn. You have to learn the rules, that's the grammar, and then you are able to write any specific statement or word in a English language or Hindi or any other language. Similarly, in the Python programming language, you first have to learn about the set of rules, the variables, okay, and the data types in the Python. Then you are able to write any code, lines of code in a Python programming language. Okay, so syntax. What is syntax? So syntax is a set of rules that you have to follow to write any code in Python programming language. A correct code that can be interpreted by the Python. Okay, if you are not writing a correct code, if you have any mistake in the rules that goes beyond the rule, that break the rules, okay, then Python will show you a syntax error. Okay, what is a syntax error? So syntax error uh, will be shown when you break any specific rules of writing a code in a Python. Okay, so that's what the statement says, that syntax in Python refers to the set of rules that defines how a Python program should be written and interpreted. If you break these rules, Python will throw a syntax error. Okay, so that's what the syntax is. Next is what is indentation. So basically, this is a very unique thing about the Python. In other programming language, you are basically uses the braces or brackets, curly brackets to define a block of a code. But in Python, you are not going to use that curly brackets. You are going to use an indentations. Indentation is nothing but a space. Okay. Let me show you the syntax. Okay. The example of syntax first of all. So let's suppose I just write like print this I had showed you in the previous lecture how can you write a hello world program. So similarly, if I want to write like hello sorry hello world, okay, hello world, and I just run this one. Okay, so first of all I have to connect my collab. This is a collab notebook that you can use. This is by Google, and this is free of cost. But you have to sign in and then you have to connect it to server. Okay, so when you are doing the projects like deep learning or machine learning type, then you should use this one. Okay, because it offers a free GPU also. Okay, so that we will discuss when we are going to do machine learning. But in today's in this scenario, this is how you can write a line of code. So basically hello world, so it gives the hello world. But if you are doing a little bit mistake in its syntax, like I just use a single brace like here, so it basically gives the error. When you run this one, you are getting a syntax error. Why the syntax error? Because you are break a rule that if you are using the single quotation mark in the beginning, you should use the single quotation mark in the end also, then it is a valid. If you are using a single quotation in beginning and double quotation in the end, then that is a mistake. Or if you are using a single quotation in last and double quotation in beginning, that also breaks the rule of syntax, or that's break the rule of code in Python. So that's what it returns you a syntax error. So that is what the syntax, and how you get the syntax error and how to resolve it. Syntax error means Python say you, hey, you are doing a mistake of writing a code and you breaks a rule that I define you, that I gives you how to write the code in Python. So that's what it is. Now So that's what the syntax, and how can you solve the syntax here. To solve it, just have to do the double quotations here and then just run. Okay, you can use the single quotation also in Python like this. You can also do single quotation in Python and just run this one. Okay, so next one is the indentations. So already I have said you that indentation is that you have used in Python to make the block of code. Okay, so like in most programming language like C, C++ or Java, indentation is the space before code. That is optional. It's only for readability. It's only for readability. But in Python, indentation is mandatory. In these programming languages, you are using these brackets to make a block, and the spaces are optional, or the indentation is optional. That is only for the readability of code. But in Python, that spaces or indentations becomes very important because that makes your block of code. Okay, but in Python, indentation is mandatory because it defines block of codes. Okay, such as loops, functions, or conditions. Okay, in any programming language, if you make a block of code that defines a function, or that defines your conditions, or that defines your loops, so block of code is very important in programming language. So in Python, indentation replaces curly braces. In other programming languages, use the curly braces. In Python, using the indentation. So let me show you how can you do that. So let's suppose you are just giving like a variable a is equals to 10 and a variable b is equals to 20, and you just print, and if you write a code like if a is greater than b, or if a plus b is greater than 20, then just print a plus b, else print a minus b. Okay, so this is what my code is. It says that if a plus b is greater than 20, then just print the addition of these two, else if it doesn't greater than 20, just print the subtraction of both. Okay, so this is just a code. Okay, so what is the indentation is? This is what the indentation. After the if, I just use this colon, and I just use this space. This space is known as indentation. If you are not going to do this indentation, you are getting a syntax error or indentation error. There is a specific error corresponding to indentation that is known as indentation error. So if I going to run this, I'm getting 30 because my 20 plus 10 is greater than 20. Okay. Obviously 30 is greater than 20. So that's why this block executes and it does not. Okay. Okay, so this is what the indentation is. If you are going to remove this indentation, first of all, because Python is an interpreted language. Interpreted language means it executes a code line by line. It executes first of all this code. It checks, yeah, it is correct. Then this code, yeah, it is correct. It is correct. But here it encounters a rule break. That is the indentation. It doesn't get any indentation. So it says you that you have an error in this code. It doesn't execute whole line of code one. That is not what the compiler does. But this is an interpreted language. That's why it executes code line by line. So here we get an error. So it says that this is an error. If you run it now, you are getting an indentation error. It says that there is an indentation. You are lagging here. Okay. But if I correct it down, then it's correct. If you are going to, so this is also an indentation. Okay. If you remove this indentation, you again get an error. Okay. If you are now run this, you are again get an indentation error here. But if you correct it, you are getting a correct answer. Okay, so this is what the use of the indentation. Indentation is not a very small thing in Python. It basically forms the core of the Python, the syntax of the Python. So indentation is very important in Python. If you are uh, if you are writing a very large line of codes, and if you are do small mistakes in indentation, then it makes a very much headache for you to find that indentations and correct it. That's why some of the people hate Python for this reason, because the indentation that you give in Python, they are mistaking in the indentation. So indentation is very important. Okay, so that is what the indentation is about. Next is Python variables. So what Python variables is? So, and every programming language have some of the variables. What is a variables? Variables is like a data containers. Okay, like in a kitchen, you having some buckets or having some uh, uh, containers in which you are storing the sugar or salt or anything, and you are just pasting a paper on it, nameplate on it, specifying that salt is put in this container, or sugar was put in that container. So that's why you can identify. Let's suppose you are want to make a tea, and you want a sugar. So in the kitchen, the container have a nameplate sugar. So you identified that the sugar has put on in that container, and you can use that container to extract the sugar from it and then make the tea. Similarly, in the programming language, the variables are the data containers in which you put a specific data to that container and label it through a data type. But in Python, you doesn't have to specify the data type initially, because Python automatically recognize the data type of particular variable. Okay, so just have to put the data inside the variable, and Python automatically labels it as a data type. And in the future, if you want to extract a value from that variable, you can easily extract it by just calling the name of that variable. Let's suppose a is equals to 10. So a is a variable, 10 is the value that assigned to that variable, and this equal to is known as the assignment operator. So I just show you how can we do that. So a variable is simply a name that refers to the value stored in the memory. So variable is just a name, and you assign a value to that variable, and it stores in a specific area of a memory. Okay, a variable is simply a name that refers to value stored in memory. You can think of it as a container or label for data. Now there are some rules for writing a variables. So first of all, I just show you how can you write. Let's suppose I just write a is equals to 10. So now 10 is the value, equals to is known as the assignment operator. It basically used to assign a value to a variable. So this is a variable. Variable is of any name type. You can give any name to a variable, but there are some specific rules for naming a variable. Okay, so this is the variable, this is the value, and this is the assignment operator. Okay, so a equals to 10, it means you have put the value 10 to a variable a. And in the future, if you want to extract the value that you had stored in the a, then you just have to call the name of that variable, and the variable is never put inside a quotation mark, because it is not a string, it is a value, it's a variable. Okay, so when you run this, you get 10. Okay, so this is how you can declare a variable and then extract the value from the variable itself. Okay, so what are the rules for the variable, declaring variable? So must begin with letter or underscore. You can't initialize a variable with a number. First rule is that you can't initialize the variable with a number. It should initialize with the alphabet. Alphabet can be uppercase or lowercase or underscore. Okay, it can't start with a number. Can contains letters, numbers, and underscore. After the first letter of your variable, you can use letters, numbers, underscores. These three are always allowed. These are the case sensitive. Means if you are writing a, and if you are writing, let's suppose a, okay, like 10, okay, then these two are different. These two are different. This capital A and this small a is different. So Python is a case sensitive language. Means a small a have a different meaning, capital A have a different meaning. Small a is stored in the memory in the different area, capital A is stored in the memory in the different area. Okay, case sensitive. Name and names are different. Should not be Python keyword. So Python have some reserved keywords like for the loop, for loop, if for a conditional statement, class for defining a class. Okay, so these all are the reserved keywords of a Python. So you can't use the reserved keywords for initializing your variable. Okay, so first of all, they can't start with a number. So let's suppose I just write my variable line name like 1a is equals to 20. So it gives me an error saying that you can't initialize with one number. Okay, so if you run this one, so it gives an error, that is syntax error. that you can't initialize a variable name with a number. You can initialize with a underscore. So if I like this, like underscore a, so yeah, it is okay. It is okay. It's okay. You can initialize a variable name by underscore, but you can't initialize the variable name by a single by a number. You can initialize it with any underscore like a or capital A. Take it. Okay, you can't initialize it with a number. Next is can contains letters, numbers, and underscores, and this is a case sensitive, and you can't use the reserved keywords. Like suppose I just use the, let's suppose 4 like a my variable name, so it is not allowed in the Python. Okay, if you run this, so this is a syntax error. Okay, and you can use like my and your variable should be a uh, depict the specific use case. Let's suppose you are making a variable for storing a number, then it should like num, such that your variable should depict the use case for 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 the region it has been created. Okay, so let's suppose you are making a variable of the name of anybody. Okay, name, you are initializing a variable name. Okay, and you store it with 20. So any other person comes and just see this variable, so he will think he will think that this variable must store the name of any person or any place. Okay, but you are storing a number in it. So this is allowed in Python, but this is not allowed in the professional world. You should name, or you should store the data in your variable as the name it is specified. Okay, so this is very important, means it depicts a use case for which it is created. Okay, that thing, there are no special character allowed in your variable. There's only one special character, that is underscore, that is allowed. Other special characters are not allowed here. Okay, so let's suppose you are having sh and then underscore vam, like, and store 20 in it. It is not allowed. It is not allowed. Cannot as an expression here, maybe you mean this or this. So you can't specify a special character, but you can specify underscore here. It's allowed. It is allowed. A single special character is allowed, that is underscore. The at the rate or any other special character is not allowed in the variable name in case of Python. Okay. So this is all about the variables. So variables, what's variables? Variables are the data containers in which you are using these variables to store that variable, to store the data in it. Okay, and then in the future you extract the data from these variables by calling the name of this variable. Okay, and there are some specific rules for writing the name of the variables. I think it's clear. Yeah. Okay, next is Python data types. So already I have taught you that if you have a data container, you stored a variable in that data container, but you have some label on it so that you can identify which type of variable is stored in it. Okay, so it's very important that you must define a data type. In Python, you are not have to do like manually define a data type. Python automatically labels the data, the variable to a specific data type, but you must have an idea about the data type to decode or to debug your code. Okay, because why are the data types are defined? Data types are defined. Let's suppose you have a string, you have an integer. You can't add a word to an integer. Okay, so data types are defined to decrease the errors in your code and to give a specific operations. Okay, because the operation can be implied to a similar data type objects. You can't add a string to a number or a word to a number or multiply a number to a integer. So that's why to decrease the, what you can say, the error in your code, or to make your programming language more fluent or more versatile, the data types are defined. So data type defines the kind of data a variable can hold. Let's suppose a variable you are declaring and what type of data it can hold, that is defined by the Python. And since Python is a dynamically typed language means you can you can change the type of a data type of a variable during a runtime. Means if you are make a variable a is equals to 10, so basically it is an integer type of data, integer type of variable. It can hold some integer values, but in the runtime, in the future, you can change the data type of variable a to a string or a float. So that's what it is, a dynamically typed languages. Okay. So data types are defined the kind of data a variable can hold. What type of what type of data a variable can hold, that is what data type specifies. Okay. Now there are some basic built-in data types in Python. Okay. Type example description like int a is equals to 10. So basically a is an integer number. So a have a data type of integer. Like float b is equals to 3.14. So b is a float type. Float is basically a decimal type value. It can store a decimal type value, decimal numbers. Like str name is equals to Shivam, let's suppose. Okay. So str is what? Str is a string type, string data type. So name can store a string type values, string of character. What's a string? String is basically the collection of characters. String is basically the collection of characters. Okay. Similarly, there is a bool is true is equals to true. So in the Python, what's a bool? Bool is a boolean value. Boolean value have the two values only. That is a true or false. Okay. True is represented by 1 and false is represented by 0. Okay. So if you specify a bool, then you can store a true or false in it. That is the logical values, true or false. Okay. And in the Python, the true is written by T as a uppercase and other as a lowercase. Similarly, false, F as uppercase and other in a lowercase. Complex values like complex. So then, if you want to define a complex values, complex value, complex number, I think you are knowing about it. So complex values is basically the combination of real part and an imaginary part. Okay. So you have to write complex z equals to 3 plus 2j. So this is a type of a complex numbers. Okay. These are basically the inbuilt data types or basic built-in data types. Okay. So let's suppose let I am just code it. So there's a basic built-in data types. So let's suppose I just make an integer value. So I just have to do a is equals to 20. So this is basically an integer value, like int data types. Oh, okay, so there is something called comment. So basically what the comments is, so this is what the comment. This is a single line comment. Comment, what is the comment? Comment increases the readability of your code. Comments increases the readability of your code. In any programming language, you add the comment to increase the readability of your code. Means if any other person sees your code or looks at your code and want to understand what you are writing, then you are just adding a comments to it to make or to increase the readability of your code. It is not executed by your interpreter, the Python. Okay, it is just a line of comment you are giving to that particular line of code. Okay, so let's suppose, and comment, single line comments, basically you can write it using a single hash or a double hash or any number of hash you are using, you can use. Okay, so basically a single hash or a double hash is used to write a single line comment. And what is a multi-line comment? So multi-line comment can be written as, like suppose you can write the multi-line comment by using 6 quotation marks. 6 quotation marks. So 3 in starting, 3 in ending. So it can use the multi-line comment here. So let's suppose this is a multi-line comment. I am writing here and depicted by this code. So here I am writing the multi-line comments. It is not executed by interpreter. Let's suppose I run this. So basically, it shows here. This is the multi-line comment I am writing and depicted here. So this is showing here because multi-line comments always appears in the terminal. Always appears in the terminal. Okay. So this is the multi-line comment I am writing here. Okay. So okay, I think it's clear to all of you. Yeah. So Okay, so what are the data types? So let's suppose a is equals to 10. So it is an integer data type. It is an integer data type. So I just write int integer data type. Okay. Let's suppose b is equals to 3.3.14. Okay, 3.14. Okay, what? Okay, 3.14. And this is what the floating type, float data type. Similarly, if you write like c is equals to like c, like my name is equals to Shiva, then this is the string data type. This is the string data type. str, you can say string data type. Similarly, if you want to write is true. Okay, so if you want to write simply is true. So what is is true? Is true is equals to, let's suppose, true. So it is basically a boolean data type. It's a boolean data type. And similarly, if you want to write complex, like z is equals to 3, yeah, okay, 3 plus, let's suppose, 2j. So it's basically the complex data type or complex number data type. If you want to execute it, just executes it. It executes, and if you want to print it or print the variables, so you can just write print a and print simply b, and just print name, then just have to print is true, then just have to print z. If you want to say it like that, so my a is 10, this is 3.24, this and that. If you want to see what is the data type regarding this, so you can just print also the type of it. Type is basically a method, sorry, type is basically a function in Python which you can use to check the type of it. Okay, so I can use this type of b, I can use this type of name. Okay, sorry, type of name. Similarly, I can use this type of is true here. Okay, so type is true here, and then I can use type of z here. Okay, if you now print it, so you are having 10 and it is in class. uh, as I said previously, that everything in a Python is an object. Okay, object or a object. Okay, so here you can see this is an object, class object. Okay, class integer. So this is the class, and inside a class there you are having a various objects. So here the integer is an object, so each data type is an object in itself. Okay, like float, it is an object, string, it is an object, bool is an object, complex is, it is an object. Okay, so that's why everything in Python is an object. Okay, so this is how your data types are defined. Next is your collection data types, like list, mutable collection tuples, immutable collection sets, unordered unique items, dictionaries. So these all are the collection data types, like list, tuples, set, dictionaries. So these are the special data types or collection data types. These data types are discussed in the next videos or in the upcoming videos. So these are the basic data types, which are basically needs to identify which type of variables is stored in a Python. Next is what is known as the dynamic typing. So dynamic typing is Python allows a variable to change its type at runtime. So what it means, let's suppose you just give a is equals to 10. So now in this type, a holds an integer value. But in and you just print it a and just want to get it type. Okay, type. So this is basically type. Okay, so like this. But in the another line, what I'm going to do, I just change the data type. Python allows you to change the data type of a variable. And how can you do this? You just have to assign with the different value. You don't have to specify it. Okay, like a is equals to, let's suppose, Shiva. Just print this a with the type of, okay, type of a. So you can see you are specifying a is equals to 10 which is an integer value, and then specify a with Shivam, which is a string value. So this is what the dynamic typing in Python is. Dynamic typing means Python allows you to change the type or data type of its variable at the runtime. Okay, without specifying the data type of Python. It basically automatically changes the data type of a variable, of a same variable, automatically changes behind the scene. When you run this one, you get first this one as 10 and class is integer. In the next one, the same variable is assigned as Shivam and the class is assigned as a string. So this is the beauty of the Python. Okay. Next is the type conversion. So there are two types of type conversion that is allowed in Python. First is the implicit type conversion. Second is the explicit type conversion. Explicit type conversion is basically the type conversion in which the user forcefully or manually changes the type of a variable or type of a variable. Convert the data types, okay, or type of a variable, data type of a variable. But in the implicit type casting, okay, I just wrote it, that first one is the explicit typecasting, explicit typecasting, and second is the implicit typecasting, implicit typecasting, typecasting or conversion. And here you are having uh, typecasting or conversion. Okay, so basically you are having two types. First is the explicit type casting or conversion, and second is the implicit type casting or conversion. What is explicit type casting or conversion? In this type of type casting, what's the type casting means? Type casting means the users or the machine or the Python programming language changes the data type of a variable during the runtime according to save the loss of the data or to make the suitable use of that variable. Okay, so let's suppose I'm just show you how can the explicit type conversion works. Okay, explicit explicit type conversion. So in the explicit type conversion, let's suppose you are having a is equals to, let's suppose, 10. Okay, and what you want to do, let's suppose I just print it a and it's time. Okay. In the next stage, what I'm going to do, I just want that the variable a, it is an integer, so variable a retains its values but its data type changes. I want to change the data type of a, but a should retain its value, that is 10, but it should be converted to float. So what I'm going to do, I just make another variable, or you can make a same variable and just write float. Float is an object. I just remember this, that everything in Python is an object. Everything is in Python is an object. Just write float, and inside it, whatever variable you want to do the typecasting, you just have to write that variable. And now if you have to print a and type of a, you just see that in the first one it is a 10 and it is an integer, but in the second one it is 10.0 and it is in float. So this is what the magic about the type conversion, and this is what the explicit type conversion. In this type of type conversion, the user manually changes the type of a variable. User manually changes the type of a variable. Now the second one is known as the implicit type conversion. Sorry, the implicit type conversion. Type conversion. Okay. So in the implicit type conversion, the Python automatically changes the data type. The Python automatically changes the data type of a variable to prevent the loss of data. Okay, so there is a specific hierarchy. There is a specific hierarchy of our data types. Okay, let's suppose so what is the hierarchy? It is first of all there is a float value, then a integer value. Okay, means that float value contains an extra amount of information as compared to the integer, because in the float value there is a specific digits after the decimal, but in the integer there is a no specific digits after the decimal. So that's why the float have the higher hierarchy as compared to the integer, because it contains a more amount of information, okay, or more amount of data. So let's suppose in Python, if you do a is equals to 10 and b is equals to 10.987. Okay, so Python, what the Python does is that when you just create a variable c to just add this to variable and just print the value of c, just print the value of c. Okay, I just what I'm going to do is I just print the value of a. I just what I'm going to do, I just print the value of b and its type also. Then you will understand what I'm want to show you, like type of b also. And here I am going to type of C also. So when I run this program, I am getting 10 as an integer, 10.987 as a float, and now when I add this two, the answer is not an integer, it's a float. So basically what it does, it first converts a, which is an integer value, into a float, and then b is a float, and the result is then it is a float. So basically internally converts the data type of a from the integer to float, and implicit type conversion or type conversion always goes from the lower hierarchy to the higher hierarchy, not from the higher to lower. Okay, this is the rule. Okay, so this is how it does. So if you are want to see it some more uh, magical things, then you just have to do a is equals to 10, b is equals to 10, c is equals to a plus b. Now the any common person, if you ask this code, then he thinks that a is equals to 10, b is equals to 10, c is equals to a plus b. Then what is data type of c? It is integer. It should be integer because a is an integer, b is an integer. When you add this two, you get a 20. That's integer. But that's not the case. But that's not the case. So a is equals to 10, b is equals to 10, and c is equals to 20. So in this case, it comes out to be an integer. But internally, if you do like this, like 10.0, then it is not an integer value. No, it is an float value. So if there is some chance of loss of data, then Python internally converts, okay, any one operand from the lower hierarchy to the higher hierarchy of the data type, and then perform specific operation on that. So that is known as the type conversion. It can be explicit type conversion or casting, or it can be implicit type conversion or casting, which can be done manually. If it done manually by the user, then it's an explicit type conversion. If it done implicitly or internally by the computer or the Python, then it is known as an implicit type conversion. Okay. So next is the constant versus variable. So you will learn about the variables. So there's something called a constants in Python. So constants in Python means you are not going to change the value of that variable. Constants are just constants. If you once declare that constants, you are not going to change the value of that constant in the future. So constant is a special type of variables which is a fixed value. You are not going to change the value of that constant in the future. Okay. So Python does not have real constant, but by convention, variables written in all caps are treated as constant. So in the Python, like in the JavaScript programming language, in the JavaScript, you have a specific keyword known as a const. Okay, that is used for the constant. If you declare a variable by a const, like const a is equals to 10, in the future you are not allowed to change the value of that variable. Okay, but in the general variables you are allowed to change the value of that variables, but if you are define it as a constant, you are not allowed to change. But in the Python there is a not such a concept of a constant. Okay, but by convention we think, or we just make a convention that if it is written in this way, it should be a constant. Like if I write uh, my number, let's suppose my now is equals to 10, then it is an variable. It is a variable. You can you can change the value in the future, but by convention if you write like this, so now this become a constant. Okay, this is not a really constant in Python. If you want to change the value of capital caps minimums, this also this you can change this also. Okay, but it is a worldwide worldwide convention that if you write the variables in the capital letter, all caps, then all capitals, then you are not have to change it. So in this way, you can define a constant in Python, and the variables are written in small, all small, or all other types except this particular. So there's a convention for defining a constant. Now, this is all about that we have specified in this video. So in this video, we are dealing with what is Python is, what are the key features of Python, what is the syntax in Python, what is the indentations in Python, what are the variables in Python, how can you avoid the indentation errors, syntax error in Pythons, what are the variables, what are the specific rules to define the name of the variables, what are the data types in Python, why are the data types are important in Python, what are the different data types, how can you get the type of a particular data type in Python or variable in Python, how the dynamic typing helps in Python to change the type of a variable during a runtime, what is a conversion, why the conversion used, what is the typecasting, there are two types of typecasting, explicit typecasting, implicit typecasting, and then what is the difference between constant and variables, and what is the convention to define a constant in Python. In the summary, Python is an easy, powerful, and cross-platform language. Okay, syntax defines code rules, indentation defines code blocks. Okay, variables are used to store data, and data type defines what kind of data is stored. Python is a dynamically typed, meaning no need to declare type before using them. So this is all about this lecture. In the next lecture, we are going to deal with some more concepts on Python. So for today's lecture, it is all that we have to discuss. So thank you. Let's meet in the next lecture. Thank you so much.